Thank you for joining me, Glenn Rashipura, on NMH at 1, where we highlight the news making waves in Namibia and beyond, ranging from current affairs, community stories, sports, and economic news. Coming up in this broadcast, ex-magistrate's third bid for bail fails. Oshakati's psychiatric ward infested with lice. Oil commercial viability data will be available soon. Do stay tuned for these stories and more news on NMH at 1.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
Let's take a look at our midday news update. Joseph Shikongo, Inspector General of the Namibian Police, has just arrived at the official opening ceremony of the Basic Police Training Course 1 of 2023 to 2024. Various senior officers in the force are also at the event taking place at the Ruben Denja Ashipala Training Center in Ondangwa. Now, visual news highlights local stories from across Namibia. Right after the break, we get into that. Stay with NMH at 1. Good evening and welcome to Sunset News.
Attachment states in list A in the speech, rate and taxes, and how much.
After the break, we take a look at the sports.
We bring you
economic indicators, tomorrow's weather, and sports. I am Aina Raiza Kweo.
Getting into our visual news, Chairperson of the Kavango East Regional Council, Demayan Magambayi, narrates how the lack of proper roads in the region is affecting people. Magambayi also said that it costs hundreds of dollars for people to travel from one area to the next. This was Magambayi's submission to a parliamentary standing committee that was recently in the region to engage stakeholders on the impact of bad roads in the region. Let's take a look.
I think it's just this attitude of saying there is no budgetary provision. I can give you one practical example. We have Shamatun Clinic in my constituency, which is now completed. They will start utilizing it. And then I've been fighting to say, this is a clinic within the very remote area of our people. And mind you, referral, when you refer a patient to a hospital with a bumpy road, a pregnant mother, for example, she will lose life and government will be sued. Government must pay. We have to exchange letters forth and until later on they agree and say, okay, now we have a budget. I think we have seen the advert, it has been advertised. So maybe come October, maybe they must start with the construction of that 15-kilometer road to Shamatun. And only when you fight. But what I should say for now as a region, I think after this meeting, all road board members will remain behind together with the officials from the Kavango East Regional Council so that we can now come up with modalities, how we can make the submission to your office. But the issue here, what we are saying is that we have the funds. Maybe that questions to say, how much does it cost them? Shamungaro is 37 kilometers. From the main road to Shamungaro is 37 kilometers. Do you know how much do they pay if you want to be taken to Dibundu? You pay 500, sometimes 700 to hire a car for you to go there.
Go and come back.
Yeah, go and come back. 700 you must pay. Because this person is talking about, yeah, because Sandy and all that, and this is what they are paid to hire a car in the absence of the road network. So it is really frustrating. I think the time has come. Let us just jointly make a proper submission, and then we take it from there. I think that.
Getting into our next video, South African power supplier Eskom will never return to its former glory, and Namibia should look for alternatives to generate electricity. Joe Marie Daddy spoke to South African economist Dawie Rad during his blitz visit to Namibia this morning. He was the guest at a business breakfast hosted by Network Namibia and Windhoek. Let's take a look.
With us is a very well-known South African economist, Dawie Rad, he's in Windhoek for a very, very quick visit, speaking at a breakfast session of Netwerk in Namibia. Dawie, welcome to Namibia. The big question for Namibia is Eskom. What are the chances that Eskom will get its house in order and will become the power supply it used to be?
I'm afraid Eskom is not going to become the power supply it used to be again. What is happening at Eskom is that it's being broken into smaller pieces. The generation, the transmission and the distribution parts are being broken or separated. And I think the only part that will survive will be the transmission part. For the rest, the private sector is getting more and more involved in the generation and the distribution part. And I think in future we're going to see far more private sector participation. This huge company that became used to the past couple of decades, that company is going to disappear and it will be replaced by something else. The transmission part will probably remain in the hands of the state, but for the rest, most of that will be privatized. In fact, part of that has already been privatized. I've done some calculations, and for the past 10 years, Eskom has lost something like a third of its market as the private sector is slowly taking over the role of Eskom.
What does that mean for South Africa's ability or capacity to export power to neighboring countries like Namibia?
I think South Africa won't be in a position to export the same amount of electricity it used to, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, because technological changes will make it possible in future for smaller power generators to contribute to the national network as well. And I think that is something that Namibia should be looking for as well, and just look for alternatives to generate electricity. There are so many alternatives. You've got a huge and a very sunny country, and that's what you need if you want to generate solar power, as an example. And I think that's the future of electricity. It will be smaller and more localized as well. So don't look at Eskom for your future electricity needs.
After the break, the Namibian Sun leads us into the newspaper review segment. To stay with NMH at 1.
We are so excited to be kickstarting your morning with entertainment.
Everything was happening during this past weekend.
Yes.
Exciting news.
Wow, no, she was killing it already.
In my opinion, I don't see anything wrong with him serving the full term.
As well as keeping you informed on the issues that you need to know happening in and around our country.
Getting into today's daily newspapers, starting off with the Namibian Sun's front page that reports that close to 160 psychiatric patients admitted to the psychiatric ward at Oshakati Intermediate Hospital are living in lice and bedbug-infested quarters. Namibian Sun has learned patients are reportedly struggling to sleep at night due to being plagued by bites from lice and bedbugs. The situation is exacerbated by congested wards, poor hygiene among some patients, and alleged poor maintenance. This comes at a time when the ward is struggling to meet the growing mental health demands of the northern population. Overall, the psychiatric ward at the hospital is reportedly in disarray and overwhelmed due to the limited number of beds available. The facility has long been overburdened and is now bursting at the seams as the country's public health system struggles to keep up. The ward has a total of 140 beds but currently accommodates 97 men and 62 women. On page 3, a Swakopmund-based pastor was arrested on allegations of indecent acts with 2 women aged 31 and 37 under the false pretext of healing them. Erango Police Deputy Commissioner Erastus Ikuyu confirmed the arrest. He said the suspect was due to appear at Swakopmund's Magistrate's Court on Friday. The complainants alleged that the accused committed the crime between May and September 2022. This allegedly happened at the Christ Center Ministry Church located in Mondese's Olowetweni suburb and at one of the victims' residences, Ikuyu said. Now he further said the suspect allegedly instructed the 2 female victims to remove their clothes on different occasions. He allegedly applied anointing water to the victims' breasts and hips, as well as tried to massage their private parts under the false pretext of healing them. Police investigations into the matter are ongoing. On the front page of the Republican, hefty price increases at Namibia's heritage sites have gotten the tourism industry in a frenzy, saying that while tourists are expected to pay more, nothing is being improved at these sites. The new fees payable at heritage sites in the country for the 2024 to 2025 financial year were gazetted this month. The price increases come into effect as of the 1st of April 2024. Popular sites such as Tweefontein will now cost $270 million for an adult international visitor on a guided tour, while it costs only $100 million from April 2020 to March 2022. The new price for a guided tour to the Organ Pipes or the Burnt Mountain will be $250 million for adult international visitors, compared to the previous price of $15 million by the end of March. Now, a tour to the Petrified Forest international visitors will have to dock up $270 million compared to the previous price of $100 million, while guided tours to Brandberg White Lady will also cost $270 million when it was previously $100 million. Now moving on page 3, the government has set November as the deadline for its decision on whether to take up a 24% equity offer in the green hydrogen project run by Hyphen Hydrogen Energy, worth a staggering 14.4 billion Namibian dollars. Green Hydrogen Commissioner James Newpay, speaking on the agenda, said the government has no obligation to take up the offer, and if it does, it has several financing options to consider. In June, Newpay told Namibian Sun that the government prefers to fund its 24% stake in the project to guard itself against escalating cost of equity capital for investors. Many Namibians have questioned why the country must fund equity in a resource it owns. But Newpay at the time said if Namibia had demanded a free 24% equity stake, incoming investors would have to generate a 33% higher return to achieve the same outcome, and consequently Namibia's hydrogen projects would be more expensive and less attractive to investors. Now, on its front page, the Allgemeine Zeitung reports that the theme of this year's Biomass Fair was boosting the growth of the biomass sector in Namibia. The theme is intended to highlight the tremendous opportunities that the biomass sector offers for economic growth. On page 3, the Allgemeine Zeitung reports that the need for increased financial resources in the fight against climate change was discussed at this year's annual general meetings of central bank heads of SADC countries. SADC region continually suffer from natural disasters. Now, a guest speaker from Europe made some suggestions. We'll be right back after the break with more newspaper review.
Welcome to What's Cooking, where culinary passion meets expert insights.
Somebody must really want to cook and want to cook good food.
Immerse yourself in the bustling world of professional kitchens as top chefs create mouth-watering dishes. Join us for in-depth interviews as our host explores the experiences and expertise of our guest chefs. Don't miss out. Tune in to What's Cooking on NTV every Friday at 2100 hours and let the culinary adventure begin.
We continue with our newspaper review. The Namibian reports that a total of 1,542 Namibians took their own lives between the 1st of April 2020 and the 31st of March 2023. This means that on average the country recorded over one suicide per day, with the vast majority of victims, about 82% of them men. This is according to statistics provided by the Namibian police. In July, the Namibian reported that 679 suicides had taken place in Namibia between January 2021 and May 2022. These incidents involved 559 men, 91 women, and 29 children. Police spokesperson Deputy Commissioner Kauna Shikwambi said unemployment, poverty, depression, rejection, hopelessness, family problems, and poor self-worth were common causes of suicide in Namibia. Now on page 3, a former magistrate facing rape, kidnapping, and other charges in a partly heard trial in the Windhoek High Court is remaining in custody after his third attempt to be granted bail failed. It will not be in the interest of the public and the administration of justice to release ex-magistrate Jaco Kennedy on bail, Judge Marlene Tomasi concluded in a judgment delivered in the High Court on Thursday. Tomasi remarked that she was not unmoved by the situation in which Kennedy's wife and children found themselves due to his incarceration, but added that she had the duty to balance his interests with those of the administration of justice. The New Era's lead story reports that the Petroleum Commissioner in the Mines and Energy Ministry, Maggie Shiner, recently said the determination on whether Namibian oil discoveries recorded in the Orange Basin are commercially viable will only be known in the next 8 to 12 months. Shiner said while addressing a Parliamentary Standing Committee on Natural Resources information session that work is still ongoing. Now, Shell and Total Energy are now mapping the extent of the field to see if the oil will flow to the surface at a commercially viable level. Now, on page 3, having recorded 45 deaths of children under the age of 5 from malnutrition-related complications during the first half of this year, the Omaheke region continues to battle the effects of malnutrition after one death and 11 new cases were reported between July and August. The new statistics were revealed by the regional leadership during Deputy Prime Minister Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah's recent visit to the region, where she visited various soup kitchens and assessed the region's various community feeding programs. Now moving over to the Market Watch, which reports the Construction Industries Federation and the Metal and Allied Namibian Workers Union have urged President Hage Geingob to cancel and re-advertise all projects currently excluding local contractors. Now, local contractors are mainly excluded due to steep financial pre-qualification or qualification requirements. These projects are not in the interest of the Namibian construction sector as they undermine the optimal performance of the industry, the CIF and MANU maintain. Projects referred to include those by NamPower, NamWater, the Roads Authority, the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture, as well as the Namibia Financial Institutions Supervisory Authority. Now, BAT ings Russian deal. An update on this coming up after the break.
Hello and welcome to today's Sports Rep Show.
I am your host, Jesse Jackson Kauraika. In replay, Namibia, who had won the toss for the first time on this tour.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, starting off with tennis news, both on the WTA for women's and
Let's take a look at our economic news. British American Tobacco said it had reached a deal to sell its Russian and Belarusian businesses within the next month or so. The maker of Camel and Peter Stuyvesant didn't provide a figure for the sale and had announced its intention to exit the market in March 2022. This follows a wave of disinvestment from Western companies in the wake of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. BAT's operations in Russia include a head office in Moscow, 75 regional offices and a manufacturing facility in St. Petersburg, the group said. It also had an office in Belarus. Let's take a look at our economic indicators. The Namibian dollar trades against the British pound at 23.65, against the euro at 20.29, against the US dollar at 18.93. 2 Namibian dollars and 59 cents gets you 1 Chinese yuan. On the NSX, almost all major commodities remained the same, with Lechako Holdings going down at 0.30% and First Rand Namibia going up at 0.01%. The overall index closed at 0.76%, while the local index closed at 0.01%. On the commodities market, copper and Brent crude oil went down, while gold and platinum went up. Brent crude oil trading at 0.07%, going for $90 and 61 cents per barrel. We return with news from Africa after this.
Neopaints has established a 67-year Namibian legacy, creating personalized paint solutions that blend quality and innovation for the Namibian people. We pride ourselves in being a 100% Namibian-owned company, investing in our country and our people by employing and empowering true Namibians. With every brushstroke, Neopaints commits to our quality guarantee and always delivering a coat of excellence. At Neopaints, we always stay true to our country. We are as Namibian as you.
Getting into our news from the continent with some devastating news. Now, rescuers raced against time on Monday to find survivors in the rubble more than 48 hours after Morocco's deadliest earthquake in more than 6 decades, with more than 2,100 killed in a disaster that devastated villages in the high Atlas Mountains. Now, search teams from Spain and Britain are joining efforts to find survivors of the 6.8 magnitude quake that struck late on Friday night, 72 kilometers southwest of Marrakesh. Many survivors spent a third night outside their homes, destroyed or rendered unsafe by Morocco's most powerful earthquake since at least the 1900s. The death toll climbed to 2,122, with 2,421 people injured, state TV reported late on Sunday. In the village of Tefkate, Hamid Ben Hana described how his 8-year-old son died under their rubble after he had gone to fetch a knife from the kitchen as the family were having their evening meal. The rest of the family survived. People have been salvaging possessions from the ruins of their homes and describing desperate scenes as they dug with their bare hands to find relatives. After the break, we get into your international news.
We are so excited to be kickstarting your morning with entertainment.
Everything was happening during this past weekend.
Yes.
Exciting news.
Wow, no, she was killing it already.
In my opinion, I don't see anything wrong with him serving the full term.
As well as keeping you informed on the issues that you need to know happening in and around our country.
Now, India's main opposition leader has said that Prime Minister Narendra Modi's plans to change the country's name from India to Bharat is absurd. The Modi government's decision to replace the name with a Sanskrit word in dinner invitations for attendees of the two-day G20 summit in New Delhi led to a major uproar. Modi used Bharat in the G20 nameplate when the summit kicked off on Saturday. Gandhi, the leader of the opposition Congress party, said the government's plan to change the name is a divisionary tactic. Gandhi said that it's interesting that every time we raise the issue of Gautam Adani and chronic capitalism, the Prime Minister comes out with some drastic new diversion tactic. The Congress party leader has accused Modi of favoring big industrialists and sought an investigation against the billionaire Adani, who controls the Adani Group, for alleged financial violations. Now, after this short break, we get into your local and international sports news.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
Getting into our local sports news. Now, around 2,300 keen runners took part in the Nedbank City Dash road race in the capital city yesterday morning. The highlight of the event was the 10 kilometers for elite women and men, elite under-18 girls and boys, as well as elite wheelchair racers and elite visually impaired athletes. The first race started at 7:30 a.m. at Zoo Park. Hage Stadium was packed on Saturday as the Standard Bank Namibia Secondary School Rugby League season for 2023 concluded with the finals. The main match saw defending champions Schumann's Group Windhoek Gymnasium's first team take on the ambitious and adventurous Samsung Windhoek High School's first team. Walro Dipina emerged victorious in the S4 passenger class, while Loic Batfield won the off-road division for pickups at the third leg of the Shell V Power Swakopmund Rally on Saturday. We now get into our international sports news. Germany have sacked coach Hansi Flick just 9 months from hosting Euro 2024 after Saturday's humiliating 4-1 defeat by Japan. The German FA announced on Sunday Flick became the first and only German head coach to be sacked since the position was created in 1926. Now, Novak Djokovic defeated Daniil Medvedev in straight sets on Sunday to win his 4th US Open and a record equaling 24 Grand Slam singles title, avenging his loss to the Russian in the final 2 years ago. Now, South Africa were relieved to get through a slippery Rugby World Cup Pool B game with Scotland on Sunday, but the 18-3 victory could have come at some cost to their bid to retain their title, with lock Eben Etzebeth injured. After this short break, we get into your highlights. Here are the news highlights from today's broadcast. Moroccan rescue workers backed by foreign teams continue today in a race against time to find survivors and provide assistance to hundreds of homeless people whose homes were razed to the ground more than 48 hours after the earthquake that killed more than 2,100 people. India's main opposition leader has said that Prime Minister Narendra Modi's plan to change the country's name from India to Bharat